Hey guys, welcome to today's episode of the podcast. Today's episode is going to be about different exercise modalities. So pretty much what we've done is sit down and work out 3 different categories of exercise, and we think most types of exercise fit into one of these 3 categories. We're going to talk about the benefits of each of those modalities, but also where we think people get stuck doing the same modality instead of doing what they probably should do is either adding different types of modalities in or changing modalities completely. But first, we wanted to give you guys a bit of a life update. Our last episode there was probably a year gap between that and our podcast episode before that. And we really haven't updated everyone on sort of, where we're at with life and what's going on. So do you want to go first, Corey? Let's talk about what's new.
And I think probably some of these things that we had going on was probably the reason that we stopped the podcast, right?
Oh shit,
For me, it was finishing my bachelor's degree, which I finished midway through last year, which was a real struggle for me, a real grind. I wasn't really that confident I was even able to kind of complete it because I've really, really struggled with that style of learning for as long as I can remember. So I was proud that I stuck to it. I got it done. It was a bit anticlimactic, I think, because, I was sort of by the end there, I was doing it part-time for most of it, but it was not this big, like, completed and feel amazing sort of moment for me. But I graduated. I felt pretty good when I was at the, getting my, piece of paper, whatever. And I think that's probably done for me in terms of...
You're done with studying?
Well, I'm done with... higher study, like going above that level. I think I've hit my limit there. That was already the death of me.
Commit to a master's or a PhD.
I just don't think I'm smart enough. No. I don't think I have the skills to be able to do it well and actually pass, I guess, or complete that. So I think that's my limit. I am doing another course, which is a TAFE course, significantly easier than university courses.
It's like piss almost.
It's a little bit boring, I'm not going to lie. Training assessing, so I mean, I've always been very passionate about teaching. I think PT is a form of teaching. But I guess now that I've got a bunch of years under the belt in this, I feel fairly confident in being good at my job. And I love teaching. I thought maybe I go down the path and sort of try out a little bit of like teaching fitness-related courses, so probably the Cert 3-4 in fitness, which is what we both did.
And
a decade ago.
Our experience of that, I don't know if we've talked about it in the past, but most of our clients would probably know it. But it's like, I mean, we did it ages ago, but I don't think it's improved much since. But it's probably like the good stories we do hear about it are probably from the educator themselves being like more passionate and sort of like delivering more real-world sort of like experience of like what to actually expect out in the industry.
And you get some teachers that are like that, and then you get ones where, and the course content and delivering of that content, like it's very hit and miss depending on the person. And I think I've got maybe a unique sort of experience in an industry and experience, which will allow me to sort of be able to give the people I teach sort of a realistic outlook, but also maybe the experience I've gained over the years will allow me to sort of, help them on the path of not making all the mistakes that we made and what things do you actually need to develop skills in, not just this course content, because you get thrown in the deep end. Like your first PT job, you're like, I didn't learn any of the business side of things. I didn't learn any of all these things that go on. So that finishes up in August. So I guess I'm sort of halfway through that. It's a 1-year course. And then I'm just running one-on-ones during the day now in the gym, which is probably the only other change to, I guess, my daily life, I guess, which that's fun. That sort of scratches an itch around, I think the one-on-one conversations you have with someone, you can get a little bit more vulnerable and you can sort of get to, I guess, maybe the deeper parts of their lives that maybe prevent them from succeeding in what they want for their health-related goals, right? Because training is one thing and we think it's really important, but the stuff outside of that as well, your stress, how you deal with it, nutrition, all those sorts of things. It can be for some people a little bit harder to be vulnerable about those things when there's people around, whether it be in a group setting.
What I think is that like it comes out sooner. Like my experience is like eventually we have the conversation we need to have, but your ability to sort of like build that trust in a one-on-one session happens much faster, right? Like, absolutely. And so you have those conversations sooner. you sort of like start troubleshooting those things sooner. It definitely makes a big difference to people's lives. But also, like, knowing they can go to an appointment every appointment is like that just one-on-one conversation with you. They know they can have, which sometimes is like, as we do our best to sort of move around the gym and try and have chat to everyone and have some, fairly, I think, not necessarily like that we're their counsellor, but like a lot of people just like offload their day onto us, and that sometimes it's hard to get around to everyone in a session and make that happen. But yeah, we do our best.
Yeah, exactly. What about you?
Yeah, life update to me. I finished the sort of advanced diploma of myotherapy, and yeah, I enjoyed it. Placement period for that was fun. You learn a lot in the placement, but I think my main takeaway, like moving from that into sort of doing my own practice in the gym itself and taking people through sort of the rehab process, is that like you sort of realize how much there is to learn about sort of like implementing rehab structure changes in someone's day. And there's lots of intricacies of that you don't really think about till you're managing someone's injury. My most recent experience is that we sort of like give people a bunch of exercises to do. And if you're not doing that, I don't think you're a good rehab practitioner. I think, giving them some rehab and strength exercises to substitute is a key. But my experience so far is that people want to do all they're already doing, and convincing them that they actually need to pull back a little bit. And it's a substitute. Like we want you to take something out to put this in. If we're just adding in more stuff, we're actually just increasing your total load of exercise and not necessarily going to make you get better. So it's about like, hey, we need to take this, and this out, and let's start putting this in, and we'll slowly build you back to where you were before. But yeah, let's try and get you back there and be pain-free. So yeah, other than that, I'm working for my dad. Dad's a Sparky. We work in a weird small niche field, but I started the apprenticeship with him as well. So that's been taken up my sort of during the daytime. And that's been its own sort of kettle of fish to deal with. I'm enjoying that part of it as well. I'm sort of like a very active person. I like going around doing different things. So I'm enjoying learning something completely different, completely new, and not something I've really experienced before. But yeah, okay, let's get into the episode because we'll probably ramble for too long about our lives otherwise.
Always.
Let's go into the benefits, just general benefits of exercise in general. Go for it, Corey.
Yeah, well, these are sort of ones for all these modalities that we're talking about later. Very just sort of broad definitions, which is obviously there's physical benefits, and then there's some mental health benefits as well. I think anyone who's exercised before kind of has varying results on how much that improves their lives from a mental perspective. Someone like me personally, it's quite significant, but there are benefits regardless. In terms of like, I guess the physical benefits, it's usually we're looking at reduction of things like disease and musculoskeletal things. So all the research we have, like I'm not going to go through the research on these because we'll be here for ages. There's heaps on all of this.
There's a lot of studies and there's a lot of research backing the benefits of exercise.
Exactly.
Right?
But the main ones that sort of everyone sort of might be aware of, maybe not all of them, is like heart disease. So prevention of things like heart attacks, things like that. Yeah. Just heart health. Diabetes, particularly type 2, only type 2 because type 1 you're born with. Certain types of cancers.
Reducing the risks of cancers,
And cancer is very complex. There's so many types, so it's not all of them, but there's some where we've got a lot of evidence that it reduces in those specific types. Weight management, I think exercise plays a role in weight management. We all kind of know that. Nutrition's probably a bit bigger, but weight management and exercise go hand in hand. Stronger muscles and bones, and that's where we'll get into what types of exercise, I guess, are better for specifically those things and what maybe aren't so effective to cover those ones. And then I think, the research on mental health, like anxiety reduction, depression, well-being.
I mean, it's sort of the first thing that, psychiatrists or psychologists, will talk about when you go to an appointment. Is what else you like? What they're asking questions about what your life looks like, and something they very likely to recommend is that you do some exercise.
Yeah,
like we know there's a big benefit. Most people have that feeling, like they've experienced it themselves.
Yeah. And I think the things that you also feel when you do exercise, where it's maybe not necessarily mental, more, well, it's probably psychological, I guess, or the brain activity sort of shifts a bit. It is like energy levels generally pretty high or higher than when you're completely sedentary. Can improve your sleep quality as well. I think the days where I don't train, like it's almost like I've got energy to burn at the end of the night. Yeah. It can be very much improve cognitive function. I think post-workout, you know, a lot of people that train in the morning sort of say, look, I just work better after I've done my workout.
Training day, versus non-training days.
And stress reduction. I think it's a good way to get some stress out. I also think it's a good way of sort of maybe even just the exercise and the endorphins and the releases you get.
We talk about sort of like the physical adaptations of exercise, but I think something that's maybe, I mean, it's almost next near impossible to study is that the social benefits of exercise, right? Like going into a space, you have some interactions with people, you know, you talk about your day. That I think for a lot of people, when we get frustrated at sometimes maybe the exercise intensity in the gym, like in our back of our mind, sometimes it's just like, hey, these people, this is just part of their day. They're coming in, they're diluting some of their stress, they're having a conversation with a bunch of people. It's what they need.
Yeah, it's like if every day of your life is just work home, like you're missing out on some social element there, right? Like you might get a bit from work, but it's not the same. And so it's good. It's a good outlet as well. So I touched on it a little bit. There's benefits of exercise, but I think we should also quickly touch on the risks of sedentary behavior, we call it. So that's the technical term. It just means not doing much, not moving, right? So it's like sitting for your whole day, or sitting and then getting to bed and lying, and then that's your whole day. So the risks of sedentary behavior, which is sort of defined as like long periods of non-movements, sitting down, whatever, also increases the risks of premature death and chronic health conditions. So similar thing, you've got your cardiovascular, type 2 diabetes, cancers, but then I think obesity is sort of usually, particularly with cardiovascular disease, like the main, I guess they're highly linked. There's a strong correlation between those two, right? So, and then obviously the flip side of the health benefits is that without doing exercise or sedentary behavior, like you're going to decrease in decrease in bone density,
less muscle,
less muscle mass. It'll deteriorate, particularly like at a certain age, like it's sort of starting to go downhill if you don't really intervene. But reduced muscle mass is a big one because it's such a strong indicator of like death in elderly people. Who has the most muscle mass, they'll live generally longer than the person who has less. So I think that covers the benefits and the risks of not doing it. And now let's go into
each different category of exercise. And the first one we'll talk about is cardiovascular training. So this is sort of like running, I guess doing any HIIT workouts.
You'd class walking is a type
technically,
of it.
And so the main benefits there is like the cardiovascular output and your ability to be more efficient with your body and your heart and your lungs, right? We talk about VO2 max, but I think that's just sort of thrown around. I think it's more commonly talked about now than it ever has been because I think running is trending at the moment. But that's just your body's ability to intake oxygen and utilize it in your bloodstream. And then lactate threshold is the other thing we'll talk about.
Yeah, they're both linked. I guess like cardiovascular training, I'd say this is the main benefit because it does this the best out of the three we're going to talk about. Like it is the best way to increase VO2 max and your lactate or anaerobic threshold, right? Which they're linked essentially like your body in like when you're doing, I guess, endurance type things. So walking, jogging, running, but usually more the jogging and running stuff where we're doing it for more than 60, 90 seconds. And there's a requirement to use oxygen as our primary fuel source to continue to do that thing. VO2 max is just a representation of like how good are your lungs at actually utilizing the oxygen you breathe in. And if it's better at utilizing, it's more efficient at being able to grab the oxygen out of that air, then you'll be able to go faster, go longer, whatever it might be, right? So that's a good representation of overall cardiovascular fitness. And then your anaerobic or lactate threshold is essentially if you increase the intensity of that distance thing. So like if you were running at a certain speed and then all of a sudden someone said like, go sprint now, you know that if you did that for a certain amount of time, like you're going to have to stop. Like you're going to have to slow down, right? You can't maintain that intensity. And we all have a level of intensity that we can achieve and continue to maintain. It's the speed that you can jog at for 20, 30, 40 minutes. And if you go above that speed, all of a sudden, I can't keep going this speed. I need to slow down. That's a really simple way of thinking about what your anaerobic or lactate threshold is. It's that point. What is that point for you? And when it comes to running and that sort of training, generally there's some sort of work in a running program that includes training that part of it, because we want to train essentially the threshold we can increase, and what is actually happening there in the body is if we get to a certain point where we have to not just use oxygen, we need to also use the other energy system, our anaerobic system, to get the energy required to maintain that intensity. We're in a bad place when sort of that's the main system needed, and oxygen's no longer enough to do the work. That system's great. It plays a role, but it also creates a waste product. So once it's that system has generated this energy and used it, there's a waste product that's released. That's that burning feeling you'll feel in like your quads usually if you're running. That's like lactate buildup. And at that point, we're at a pace where we can't maintain that. So training that up as well. And again, running training is the best thing to increase and improve your anaerobic threshold. Does it better than anything else.
So as far as like benefits goes, we're looking at cardiovascular benefits, but we could sort of say heart and lung health is pretty much, we'd summarize it all into one that lumped into that. But then you've got all those diseases that are in particular related to those two things, right? So we can think reducing your rate of, or your risk of heart attack, that's probably one of them. Reducing your blood pressure, again, that reduces your risk of heart attack. All these things, the benefits of cardiovascular training. Weight loss is something we haven't talked about.
Well, and I think that's probably one of its other biggest strengths, right? Is for a time, like comparing the time you spend, it's probably also the best thing for just caloric burning, right? Like the metabolic expenditure required to do those sorts of cardios. With the caveat being like walking is probably not going to be as intense compared to some of these other modalities, but running and jogging, for example, probably burns the most in the time you do it.
It's right up there. I don't think any of the other modalities burn anywhere near enough.
Look, there's probably some really intense like sort of classes in other modalities where you could, but I think for just the standard, really basic sort of stuff, this is probably the gold standard for that sort of thing.
Let's talk about the risks. So there's always going to be risks of doing anything. The main risks of cardiovascular training, I reckon overuse injuries is probably what I'm experiencing right now. I'm a little bit sore at the moment. I probably did too much running too steeply. And that carries a risk. And the other risk, I reckon, the main thing, if like random people are just getting into running that haven't done it before, if you're just picking exercise up for the first time in a while, is that it does require a level of strength and stability, meaning that you can fall and you can hurt yourself. So
and I think some people naturally have a pretty good running style. And most of us don't. The running style we might have might not be perfect, which again with overuse or even just, I wouldn't even say it.
Well, even overuse. I think lots of people go out and run for the first time in a long time and they become injured really quickly. Not to scare people away from running. I think most people should try and get to a position where they can run again. I think it's an important thing that we should be able to do as humans. That's just getting too philosophical. I don't think it's that deep, but I think most people should be able to do it. But getting yourself there without getting injured is a bit of a balancing act, I think, for a lot of people, right? Not just for, average Joe Blow, but for us as fitness professionals, getting into running or starting running again, it's not easy to stay not injured. So I think it's probably one of the risks of it.
I mean, it makes sense, right? Like when you're running, like only one foot's impact in the ground at the time, it's quite a high impact. It sends shockwaves all the way up your leg. You might be a bit of twisting motion. It's just it's more of an open chain exercise, which means there's more risk in. Like if you've always got 2 feet planted or 2 arms planted when you do an exercise, obviously there's less risk because there's less error in how you can move.
Potential error, yeah.
Potential error. So it's a more complicated movement, therefore there's higher risk involved in that.
Let's talk about limitations. So limitations, the first one is sort of like that you're not gaining any muscle, and there's some benefits to that, right? Yeah. We can talk about that when we get to strength training because that's what that does best. But yeah, I mean, that's every gym bro's fear, isn't it? Losing muscle as they start running it. And it does happen not because I think like if you're probably, it does happen as a little bit of an adaptation, but also it probably happens because there's no
caloric
requirement.
Demand as well. Yeah. And there's no requirement. Like maybe you might initially like if you're sedentary and you pick up walking or running, like you probably will gain a little bit of muscle, but you've because you've deteriorated so much. Yeah. There's a certain limitation, I think, to how much you'll get to a point where you're not really putting on any more.
Your body responds to stimulus, not creating enough stimulus to gain muscle anymore. Yeah.
I would say one of the things that it kind of does, one of the limitations, but also kind of one of the benefits is we talk about bone density and the importance, particularly later in life. Yeah. Running will have a decent effect on bone density increasing, but it doesn't do it for the whole body. And I think that's where we'll get into it with resistance training. Because running is really a lower body movement. Like you swing in your arms, there's no resistance there. Yeah. So you will get improvements in bone density, but it'll be purely the legs and I think maybe the lumbar spine as well, the lower parts of the spine. Yeah. But it's not an overall body bone density. So there's a limitation there as well. I think those are the main ones with running. Again, we're including everything in this cardio training, but we've mostly spoken on running because I think that's the gold standard of like maximizing these benefits. Walking is, I think, a great starting point, and I think we should all walk every single day. But the benefits that come with your improvements in VO2 max, like efficiency and just heart health and all those things, they're there, but they're not as they're not as significant as going quicker. And I think running, you can sort of progress it over time. You'll be faster, you'll be able to go longer, whatever it might be that your goal is. Walking, you can only get to a certain point with walking, I guess. Like you can walk,
you're gonna hit your ceiling a lot sooner.
There's a ceiling. Yeah. And I think that's an important thing when we discuss these, because progression is sort of required and necessary for like improvements over time with any sort of exercise, right? Yeah. I think that's it.
Yeah, let's move on. Yeah. The next one is resistance training. So this encompasses hypertrophy training, strength training, anytime where you're doing some sort of progressive overload in a gym, maybe with or without a barbell. At a lower maybe heart rate intensities, maybe. Not one of the requirements to put it in this category, but commonly in this category, your heart rate's probably not as high. That's probably one of the limitations of it.
Yep.
But
we'll go through the benefits
We'll start with the benefits first. We're going to have a bit of a bias here because obviously this is what we preach. So, but we're not lying. These are the benefits. So you're going to increase your actual muscle size, the cross-sectional sort of area, your ability to sort of use that amount of muscle to produce a certain amount of force.
Yeah, so strength, force production.
Yep.
And I would say it does this the best out of all three.
Yeah.
Like it does the best.
Hands down does the best job at doing this. You cannot put strength at the end of a different type of exercise or a different class. This is one of my pet hates in the industry. And then it be the same as this adaptation. It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
Just because it's called, reformer strength. Not the same thing as actual strength training.
No.
Yeah.
It's miscategorizing it.
Yeah.
It also, I would say, is the gold standard for the bone density stuff because it will, unless you're a bro and you don't train legs.
Yeah.
If you're doing it correctly, it's strengthening bone density across the board.
Yeah.
In pretty much
more
every
of your
bone.
joints, and more of your bones undergo stress, and therefore more of them maintain and increase bone density.
And it will do it the quickest, I would imagine, as well. So it's the most significant improvements. It's across the board, which is what we want. We don't want just your bones being strong in your lower body. We want it across your whole body.
I think it's important we touch on the fact that we used to think that we had a point in our lives where we weren't able to increase our bone density. I think the going theory was that we would get to a certain point of bone density and it would start deteriorating. And so we had a window of opportunity maybe to increase bone density as much as we could. But now we've got more evidence recently to suggest that anyone at any age that undergoes a some resistance training, whether that be, you know, perfectly structured or not, increases their...
It can actually increase,
at any point in your life, right?
Yep.
And we've got some good first-hand experience in
Well,
this. Yeah.
Around the same time this study came out, I mean, I think it was like the week before, this study on, it was over 65-year-old women, so postmenopausal, where bone density significantly decreases because of the hormonal changes that happen during that time. They did a study with only women over 65. They got them in the gym, they got them lifting weights, and they were actually shown that not only were they like, we always thought it was just you could maintain what you had or slow the deterioration process, but they actually increase bone density. And then a week later, my mum, who's been training here for I think 4 years now, and look, it took her a bit of time to get, it took her a while to sign up. Like, I don't think she was a bit hesitant to start with, and now she loves it. But I think I got her to get a DEXA done around that time when she first started, or it might have been just a medical thing that she got through a doctor.
I think she got a referral from a doctor. But let's quickly go over what a DEXA is, because I think most people wouldn't know what a DEXA is. But so a DEXA is it dual X-ray? Is that what it stands for?
I don't know.
I think it's. I mean, I'll correct myself in the little comment here, but I'm pretty sure it's dual X-ray. Pretty much, it's a bone density scanning machine that very accurately measures your bone density.
And muscle mass too.
And muscle mass, it's the gold standard when it comes to body composition, but the real world application for it most of the time is actually to check bone density in patients that have deteriorating bone density. So your mum saw an increase in bone density. Yeah, I mean... At a time in her life where we used to not think that was possible. Yeah. So that's actually a big takeaway, I think, for, you know, our demographic watching this is probably not anywhere near that age category or like worried about, you know, falls and risks. But I think it's important that they encourage everyone that is in that category, their mums or their grandparents, to actually do some exercise. Yeah. And some structured strength training. Join the gym.
All right, let's sell the benefits before we go for the sell. I think you probably could touch on this a little bit better than I can around like the insulin sensitivity and that sort of stuff.
Yep. So the more muscle mass we have, the better we are at utilizing carbohydrates as energy. And that is pretty much what insulin sensitivity is. It's the control mechanism for how we use our carbohydrates in our system. The more muscle mass we have, the better our body is at utilizing carbs as a source of energy. And a bad sort of insulin regulation is what type 2 diabetes is. Yeah. So we see some people sometimes who are on the border of like, hey, you're at high risk of type 2 diabetes, but they don't look like what you typically see of people who are in the high risk category, in that obesity category. But yeah, for varying amount of reasons.
And I guess
something you can do to improve it.
The
muscle mass.
The reasons like improving it has I think the benefits of that is to do with like the insulin sensitivity is sort of how your body will, I guess your body composition, maybe how like your metabolism and how you use energy, how effectively you can use it. Hormones, I think, are related to this as well. So like how much body fat you store, all those sorts of things play a bit of a role as well in that. And then metabolic rate. So basal metabolic rate, basically how many calories you'll burn in a day at rest. Obviously exercise is a separate category of like you're burning calories
on top of your
BMR. But it'll increase the base one, which is like if you have a certain level of muscle, if you were just in a coma, you'd be burning more calories than someone who has less muscle than you, right? Like just lying there, not moving. Because muscle requires energy and therefore your body is going to use that energy to maintain that muscle, which is a roundabout way of saying it increases your metabolism, right?
I don't think it's stated as being as big a benefit as we used to think. I think we used to think it was a lot more of a benefit, but it still is noted as a benefit. Like I don't think you can discount it from being, I think, something we talk about. But
it's not gonna. It shouldn't be your main reason for starting exercise because you'll be a little bit disappointed that you can't just all of a sudden eat 3 large pizzas.
No, you're not supposed to have 3 Macca's meals because you gain some muscle.
No, it's not that much. What are the risks?
So obviously, firstly, I think it's important to state that the gym environment generally is the safest form of exercise because the control we have around what you do in the gym is really high. it's not like sports where you run around and potentially have impacts happening and injuries happening. It's actually very, very safe. But there is still a risk of muscle strains and ligament tears. That does exist. We can't pretend it doesn't. We are going to be moving heavy loads, so that it does carry that inherent risk. And then just spinal disc pathologies. I think that's probably the biggest fear people have around lifting heavy stuff. It's that there's risks of past experiences,
bulging discs and all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And I think the reason we say, look, it's a risk, but it's a smaller risk than a lot of other types of exercise, is because you can control all the factors, which you can't necessarily do in something like a sport. You could just get bumped off, get bumped, like you have no control over that. Yeah. It's also that like weight training, resistance training. There's so many different exercises you can do to hit the same muscle, right? So it can be very personalized to the person. Generally, they're closed chain exercises. You're not generally going to be doing things where you're like off balance or on one leg only, or like you're not stable in some way. And that can also be played with depending on the person's skill level. So like machines are way more stable than dumbbells and etc. But also I think a lot of the actual soft tissue injuries and like spinal injuries that can occur with weight training is generally controllable if the load is the correct load, and if the technique is correct, and if you're doing the correct amount of it in a week, so not overtraining, for example. So generally those are controllables. There's obviously like freak things that can happen, or just your body just doesn't, it's not perfect. So like some things are just going to happen sometimes.
I think that's where having a trainer is really beneficial, because we spend a lot of time dealing with lots of different bodies and working out sort of like, if X doesn't work, we can try this instead and substitute this way, or slightly modify the exercise to suit the person.
And I guess we have a decent, well, I'd hope we'd have a decent understanding of what is good load management. We understand the correct weight
progressions, I think.
Yeah.
Over experience, you just sort of get like the idea of like what progression's ideal for each person. So what's the safe sort of working range to be in as well?
Limitations.
Yeah. So I mean, the main thing is that you're not getting your heart rate up super high.
Yeah.
Which means you're not going to get the cardiovascular benefits of cardiovascular training.
I think you'll get some initial.
You will get some initial, because some of the workouts we do, your heart rate's still getting up there.
But the cap, like the ceiling, like we talked about the ceiling of like muscle building for running, the ceiling for cardiovascular benefits of resistance training is that you might get some small improvements of VO2 initially, and probably even the anaerobic threshold. However, those are kind of limited, and you really can't work around that and still make the resistance training effective, because if you're constantly in the high-end heart rates for resistance training, then you're probably not resting enough to get the benefits of what you need to, like you need the rest periods in weight training to get the ability to then do the next set correctly and push and get hypertrophy to happen and all those sorts of things, right?
Yeah. What was the only other, I mean, I think the next one, it's sort of important. It's not related to exercise itself, but it's probably important to state. The other two forms of exercise being balance training and cardiovascular training, you don't need any equipment to do, at least initially. But with strength training, you probably do need some.
And I think
there is a body weight training, but
and when we say resistance training, like you could sort of say that maybe body weight training gets put in there, or let's say someone goes, okay, I want to start resistance training, and they buy for their house like a set of 5 kilo dumbbells, right? You're not going to get the benefit of all of these things if you don't have the ability to do what is the most important thing with resistance training, which is progress it, right? It has to be progressed. So if you're doing resistance training each week, but it's the same 10 reps with the same 5 kilo dumbbell, you're not getting it. You're not getting the benefit, right? So that is
the body
not
only
an effective
changes
way.
when it's stressed by something it doesn't experience normally, and an adaptation happens because of that stress. Yeah. So you need to increase the weight.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. All right, the last one, which is balance training. So this sort of is like yoga, Pilates, all of those sort of modalities put into one. The main benefits I think here is sort of like building good proprioceptive control of where you are in space I think this is a good spot for people to start training sometimes, or if they're in a position where they've done very minimal exercise and they're injured, maybe it's a good place to start as well there. Or fitting it around, like a lot of athletes fit this in because it's something that doesn't actually increase the amount of stress load on their body to an extent around the rest of their day in training.
There's and they're moving, right? So there's you're still doing something good for your body.
Yeah.
Look, there's definitely elements of these things around like maybe increasing mobility, maybe a little bit of core strength as well. Again, we're biased, and I think there's a million ways you can do that in the gym anyway. Most of which are probably equal, and maybe a couple that might even be better for you individually. But I think there is like. There's some benefit to, like, it's sometimes important with these things that, look, if it's an additional thing that you're doing as well, and it brings joy to your life and you enjoy doing it, like, it does a decent job of core, it does a pretty good job of increasing balance and maybe a bit of flexibility as well.
Downregulating your nervous system and stress management.
Which it kind of goes into the mental health side of things as well. I think it's pretty good at,
I think exercise in general has a positive mental health benefit. But I wouldn't say this one's better.
I wouldn't say that while I'm doing a weight, like a heavy, a hardcore resistance training session.
You're meditating.
That I'm feeling very relaxed, right? So that's a bit different in how it might do it.
Exactly.
Which can put you in a little bit of and look, it teaches you, like, I think a lot of these things, like, as well, like, very valuable life skills, like how to breathe, being aware of your body in space. Maybe even just like the way that, in a lot of those classes, they talk about like trying to really think about how do you feel right now? Like, how does these muscles feel? And realizing maybe there might be some tension there that you might need to relax. Just being aware of your body, I think, is a really good benefit of it as well. And it does teach people how to move in different ways when maybe they haven't done that before, right? But so does resistance training. What are the risks?
The risks, so I think the main one when it comes to balance training or yoga and Pilates is that there is too flexible. That does exist, and that can carry inherent risk. Your likelihood of having injuries in the other parts of your life where you're not in the yoga setting or the Pilates setting, because your body's too lax, your tissues are too lax. That is a thing that exists. It's probably not super high, but if it's the only thing you do for training, that is a risk. I think the other risk is, like, if this is the only style of training you do, you aren't getting the benefits of the other types of training. Like, that's probably, main. That's probably more limitations than it is.
I mean, risks, I think I've done some of these types of trainings before. Well, probably most of them, to be honest. But I wouldn't say I'm an expert. But I would say that, like, when we listed the benefits of cardiovascular training and weight training, like, both of those do certain things the best, right? I guess you could make the argument that for maybe yoga, and I don't think Pilates really does too much on flexibility and stretching, right? Like, it does, but like, it's not the core focus.
They're sort of like too broad. I mean, what do you call yoga and what do you call Pilates? Like, what bucket do you fit, when does it cross over? And also, I think it's not just clinical Pilates we're talking about here, because there's a bunch of different classes you can do in Pilates now that's still called Pilates. So,
there's not really one thing physical benefit-wise that it is the gold standard of. It does a lot of things. It doesn't do any of them the best. It does a lot of them
when it comes to driving adaptation benefits from exercise. That's probably the limitation of it, right? Like the end point comes much sooner than any of the other types of exercise when it comes to increasing the benefit of X, Y, and Z that exercise modality does well.
I think that goes into the limitations, right? So when it comes to the basic ones like yoga and Pilates on their own, there's limitations around like the muscle adaptations at a certain point, because if you're just doing body weight related stuff, like, you'll hit the ceiling very quickly, and the only way to progress it is, well, there's no real ways to progress it. I think the way that and it's very, very popular for probably a reason, is the way to progress the Pilates was, well, reformer Pilates, right? So we're adding resistance to your Pilates, and that made a whole lot of sense, right? Well, I hit this ceiling very quickly. Now there's more benefits to continue on. But I think that reformer has its own ceiling around like how much resistance you can actually get to, right?
You're not doing a 100 kilo trap bar deadlift at reformer Pilates.
No.
And we can, I mean, I wouldn't say we can quickly get most people there, but I reckon we can. I reckon that's a true
Within
statement.
a year for pretty much
We can
everyone,
get most people to probably do something very safely. Like, which you'd never get anyone to. I don't think there's enough springs in the fucking whole gym to allow you to do that at Pilates. So
similar things in terms of limitations around, there's limitations around the cardiovascular improvements as well with those sorts of things. Like they don't generally
We had this conversation the other day, and it's that like Pilates and a lot of other yoga, I think yoga does it too, HIIT classes are doing it now as well, but fitness related classes in a sauna, infrared saunas, we don't have the data. I don't think anyone would have the data on this because I just randomly thought of it, but is there, because the heart rate's going up, right? But it's probably not creating the same stimulus required to have a cardiovascular benefit. It's the same feeling you get when you do like just sweating, yes.
It's an external, like the heat is what's causing your heart rate to go up, not the exercise itself.
Not you doing the thing, And doing the thing in the room is obviously hard. So we're not saying it's easy, but it's not driving the same adaptation. So I think people get the feeling that I don't think an average person thinks about this deeply. But when I think about like a sweaty workout, when I'm doing a hard workout, that to me is a cardio workout. And if you're getting that sweat just because the room's hot, that's not the same adaptation as actually doing something hard enough to make you sweat a lot.
Yes. So it's like a lot of these very popular sort of new, I don't want to say trends because I think a lot of these will stick around forever. Yeah. But I guess a lot of the ways that they're sort of pivoted a little bit, like we do it different because it's reformer and it's Pilates and it's also in a sauna now. Like you're essentially creating a way to solve work around one of the limitations of that type of exercise. This doesn't get people I think
then people feeling like they've done a workout. And that's what people are after, right?
And create an artificial way to achieve it, right? And it's a bit gimmicky in that regard.
It's not big gimmicky, it's very gimmicky.
It's like, you want to sweat? Well, instead of doing hard work, we'll just make it hot in the room. It's it's a little bit of a shortcut in a way. And it's kind of like, oh, that's fun, exciting. There's a novelty to it. But
and there's, I saw one of the memes recently, maybe weeks ago now, but making them talking about how most of the expensive inner city gyms look like the inside of a strip club now because of the dark rooms and the red lights. And that's what people are after, right? Like,
it's fun, it's exciting.
It's fun, it's exciting, it's Instagrammable, so people love doing it.
Okay, so let's sort of summarize this all and wrap this up. What are the key takeaways? What are the recommendations?
I reckon it's goal dependent, right? So really, like that's the point of our podcast, try and educate people around all the different types of modalities today. No matter what they're doing, I think, again, one of the points I always sort of have when we're having this conversation sort of on a one-on-one basis is that, if it's something you enjoy doing and it's, you're going to keep doing it, then maybe it is a good thing you just keep doing it because it's better than nothing. But I don't think that's where you should sort of stop yourself. And I think that's where sometimes it's maybe a little bit toxic to just go, this is me and this is my identity. I think it's good to explore other things and try other things and think about it from an overall health perspective. And I think that's why maybe people that are just doing running or just doing yoga or just doing Pilates, and they probably deep down know the benefits of strength training or definitely heard about it in recent times because it's been talked about lots, but they give that a go in some capacity, right? Do I think that it's the only thing you should be doing, strength training? Definitely no. I think that people need to go to a gym, or not necessarily just the single gym, but try different modalities of exercise and have a balance when it comes to their training modalities that incorporate some benefits of cardiovascular training, incorporate some strength training, and incorporate some balance in their exercise. The risk is now that there's places that say they do all of it.
Yeah, and they're kind of marketing you. It's a lie. It's a bit of a lie, right?
That part of it is a lie, and I think that's probably the part where I'd say to people, don't get sucked into that. I don't think like any of these exercise modalities is inherently bad or really shit. I think that, you know, each of them has their place.
I mean, they complement each other in a lot of ways, right?
And they complement each other, yep. But make sure when you're doing X, Y, and Z, make sure you're doing that modality and you're doing that modality well. And when you're trying X modality, make sure you're doing that modality well. I'm not saying things can't be mixed together. They can, but sometimes when you mix stuff together, you get an okay version of both.
It's like your all-in-one shampoo conditioners, right?
Everyone knows. Every guy will know this.
It does. When it says it does two things or three things, it doesn't do any of them well.
Yep.
It does all of them acceptably okay, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, there's a reason, like, we've separated them ourselves because they have very different, they're very different requirements-wise. And because of that, each of them does something really well and the other one cannot possibly do really well what the first one does. Like they're all really good at individual things.
Yeah.
And you can try and you can change and you can make things to try and make your one thing the best thing for everything. Yeah. But it ends up being kind of a bit gimmicky or just a little bit of a lie. So yeah, I think the more you can do, the better.
Yep.
But you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
If you're already currently doing something, and you're doing it pretty well, and you're doing it at a place that does that thing really well,
maybe dabble in something else.
But don't get rid of the other thing. It's not a swap thing. Play around with different things. Like I've been to some reformer Pilates classes this year. I've been doing cardio running training this year. You've been doing running training as well. But we still do our weight training.
I honestly think I should maybe try reformer Pilates, so I'm not just always shitting on it. I will this year. Maybe that's one of my goals this year, is to go into a reformer class.
Yeah.
I don't think it's bad. They're bad. I think some of them become really gimmicky. No, this is not just reformer.
Everything does.
Everything does. There's a gimmicky version of strength training somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. On that topic, I wanted to do a bit of a this or that as a fun sort of outro.
Okay.
Yeah. So Corey's going to answer it. I'm going to list off 2 different places he could train, and he's going to pick one. We're going to keep one, and I'm going to add another. Yeah. So, if you were to choose between a Good Life, and a Muscle City, where would you train?
Muscle City.
Yeah. Muscle City and a BFT, where would you train?
Muscle City still.
Yeah. I think maybe I picked your winner at the start.
Maybe.
Yeah. All right. Muscle City and a Doherty's.
I've been to one of the Doherty's and I've looked at
photos.
More than one? Yeah, there's one in I think it's like Dandy area, maybe Noble Park or something.
That's the OG one. There's another one somewhere.
There's one in the city though. I thought maybe that's the OG.
Maybe that is
That's
OG.
like under it used to be an old train station or something. And I've seen the photos of that one and it's like super grungy. It's probably very like old school gym sort of vibes.
Yep.
But from memory, it being the one I did go to, the equipment at that stage, it's very old equipment. I think that's one of the things where
newer gyms are better for that.
Gyms are better for that. Yep. So I'm still sticking with the same one.
Yep, Muscle City and Derrimut.
I like Derrimut's more.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'm thinking nostalgic, like a few years back when I was training there. I think it's bigger, there's more equipment choices, and they don't just stick with one single brand. And I think, is it Muscle City that has all the equipment in red?
Yep.
I really don't like red.
Okay.
So I'm going to...
All right, so we're at Derrimut's now.
Yeah.
Yep. Whoa. I think you're done. I reckon you'll stay at Derrimut's. I don't think there's anything on my list now that you'll pick over Derrimut's. Derrimut's and a Virgin Active.
I'm
shit.
glad you went there because that's what I was actually, I was thinking. I'm like, I have been to one of them. I've been to one of the ones in the city. And I think that does do a mix of like the newer equipment, the premium equipment, a large space. There's
class
other
variety.
things, class variety. There's other cool little things that they have in those places.
Nap pods. Is that the place that has nap pods?
Yeah, they have little nap pods. They have like a rock climbing wall. They have like cardio equipment. Yeah. It wasn't the best experience for like weight training. Like there were some things that it was lacking. But I think I would go with that as the overall experience.
Yep.
It was just nice. And it's like properly air conditioned as well. Like that, you're missing that with Derrimut's and the other ones.
Yep. All right. Okay. If you were to go Virgin Active, because there's only like one, right?
Yep.
And the freedom of what you have now where you train, which is at Lime.
Club Lime, yeah.
Yeah. What would you pick?
Wait, so is my choice between...
Virgin Active, Club Lime.
I think I would probably go Virgin Active. Yeah. It's a location that is also probably one of the most important things for gyms, right?
Yeah.
But if we're ignoring location, I think I would go, Virgin Active.
Yeah.
I do. I mean, what's that gym? The really expensive one we were talking about, the one on Chapel Haven, St. Haven.
St. Haven.
That should be included in the mix.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Virgin versus St. Haven then. You haven't been to St. Haven yet?
I haven't been.
Yeah. But we've seen photos. I mean, you have to get an invite, don't you, to go?
You just, I know a little bit about this. You do have to go in for an interview, and they won't let you see the facilities until you're already signed up, and it's a 12-month contract.
Wow.
So you don't even get to see the gym before you signed up to the gym.
So Virgin Active then, surely.
I mean, look, mate, until further notice, until I've been there.
Hit us up, St. Haven.
I'll let you know if I ever get to be in there.
Yeah.
If it's good.
Yeah. Cool.
Let's wrap
call
it
it
up
there. Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, we'll do another one of these next week. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're on
next
a roll
week.
at the moment.
We actually have a special guest coming in next week.
Hey.
He doesn't know yet, but
we will be letting him know soon that he will be here.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a choice because he's my dad. All right. See you next week.
See you next week.